I have decided something. What have you decided? I have decided
that
When we're born, we have a mommy and daddy, right? And then when we grow up and get married, we have children of our own. And then our children grow up and get married and have children. And so on and so on. So it's very important and very fun also to
Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm Miranda, and you're listening to Interesting Sex Podcast, a show about who, how, where, and why we fuck. Every episode, I talk to somebody that's into fetish, kink, BDSM, or anything really that's not too vanilla, and we just talk about it, learn about it, and learn about it. Super fun. Thanks for being here. Today we have a really great guest, Mistress Schari. She is a professional dominatrix and the owner and educator at Mischief Matters, www.mischiefmatters.com. What I learned from her about being dominant in one talking episode is insane, that I would totally love to go learn from her in person. She really has a lot of beautiful things to share that aren't just about being dominant, but about relationships in general that I found eye-opening and ways to benefit both parties of the relationship. Got to take a really quick second to tell you guys about our new partnership I'm stoked about, Tushy. HelloTushy.com/ISP for 10% off. I got a bidet with them, and it's a very exciting experience, and my butthole has never been cleaner. So when you wipe your butt with dry toilet paper, does it remove all the shit? No, I don't think so. That's why you get little poop spots on your underwears. I think they're called skid marks, and they're not cool. If you were to get poop on any other part of your body, would you just wipe it off with dry paper? No, you would use a wet cloth to get it off to make sure you were clean. And that's exactly what Tushy is. It's a sleek bidet attachment. It clips right onto your existing toilet and sprays your butt completely clean with fresh water. And when I say fresh water, it's not toilet water. Tushy connects to the water supply behind your toilet to spray your dirty parts with clean, fresh water. It's the same water that you brush your teeth with. They're now offering free shipping, and with HelloTushy.com/ISP, you get 10% off your products. So that's exciting. Their classic bidet is only $79 with this. I know a lot of you like to do dirty things with your buttholes, so how about you clean your butthole and get yourself a Tushy? HelloTushy.com/ISP. And while you're doing your bathroom poopies, why don't you check out the book While You Were Pooping? It's an inappropriate children's book for adults. All the pictures are drawn with coloring pencils, so it looks like a 12-year-old drew it, but everyone's naked, and it's very inappropriate. So while you're pooping, your ex got laid, or while you're pooping, a dolphin got caught in a net. It goes all over the place. It's a great book, super fun. You can find it on Amazon. You can even look up the pictures if you went on Google, whileyou'repoopingbook.com, or you can find it on Amazon, While You're Pooping by the Anonymous Pooper. Okay, now back to our show. So feel free to give her a follow and look around on her social media as you're listening to the episode. She is on Twitter as Mistress_Schari follow, SCHARI, and she is on Instagram as HighProtocol_Mistress. They will also be in the show notes below. So here we go. Let's open our ears, our hearts, and our holes and give a nice warm welcome to Mistress Schari.
Hello.
Hi, may I please speak to Mistress Schari?
You are.
Oh, hey, what's up? This is Miranda calling from Interesting Sex Podcast.
Hi, how are you?
Good, I'm glad we were able to connect today.
Yes, me too.
Thanks. What's your day like? How's it going this morning?
It's a pretty easy day so far. Well, it's a pretty easy day for me most days in the mornings. I wake up, I go for a swim, I lay out.
What's your favorite stroke?
I only do the breaststroke. I don't like to get my hair wet. It's a lot of color in my hair. Yeah, getting it wet, not a good idea.
Well, the breaststroke is the sexiest of the strokes. And
it's the only way my back gets tan.
I prefer to swim doggy style.
Oh, well, whatever works for you.
Okay, so let's start by talking about who you are as a person. How do you identify as a human? How do you identify sexually? Just a little bit about you.
All of that good stuff. You got it.
Yeah.
Sure. So I identify as she, her, I'm woman. That's I really enjoy being a woman, especially an adult woman. I couldn't wait to be old enough to have my own place, my own everything. Um, and I'm pansexual, always have been, ever since I was in high school, only I just thought it was, bisexual. Like, how labels changed as you get older, so I've accumulated new ones I didn't know that I had originally. So I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I'm a professional dominatrix.
That sounds like a good life.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's really not bad. It's one of the few things where I can honestly say I don't get stressed at my job because I have an outlet. Like, my job is my outlet.
Right.
So it makes it sort of like a calm, very sweet, serene lifestyle,
So if your kid or your partner is driving you crazy, your outlet is going to work and hurting some people?
Yeah, not always hurting. Sometimes it's just about denying,
Right.
Sometimes it's just about being the boss and you can't have what you want. And that's enough for me.
Is your daughter is it a boy or a girl? Sorry.
I do. I have a daughter. She's 15 years old, so she wants nothing to do with me.
Okay. I was going to say, like, a lot of times it's the kid that's actually the boss at home.
Right. No, I don't know how it happened. I have a good kid. I have a really good kid. So I don't know how that happened, but yeah, no, she's 15. She wants nothing to do with me.
Right.
And,
that sounds about right.
Right. And I was always looking forward to having a daughter I could talk about sex with. Like, like, I'm envious when I see those mothers and daughters that do that, because I never had that with my own mother. And look what happens when you don't talk about sex with your child. So I thought, oh, this is great. She wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
She's not interested in talking at all. And I've been doing this since she was born.
Does she know?
I think she has an idea. I think she has an inkling, but she's just so used to it that she's just not even interested.
Right.
But she knows. I mean, I tell her, if you have a question, come ask me. I know the answer. She's like, ew, Mom, gross. I'm like, all right, well, when you're ready, here I am.
You're right. Yeah. Well, my mom is trying to always get information out of me, and I'm like, just stop it.
Really?
Stop.
See, I would have loved that. My mother probably didn't even know the names of my friends.
Oh.
Yeah. I grew up, well, my mother wasn't much older than me, probably. She's only 20 years older than me, and she, from the 70s. So it's like, that was a whole, the 80s, that was all about them. Like they children were seen and not heard.
Right.
So yeah, so she, so, but whatever. I mean, I want that with my kid, but yeah, she's like, ew, gross.
She'll get through
disgusting.
the days. Yeah, when she's
yeah,
older.
I hope so, because I think it would just be so much more fun to be able to communicate with her and answer questions. I mean, because, oh my God, you look on the internet today. How do you not have questions?
Right.
Maybe
she doesn't even know what her questions are yet, though.
That could be. I'm willing to go on that.
Yeah, let's hope.
Let's hope, yeah. Fingers crossed that she's, not interested forever.
Okay, so let's get into your career. You're a dominatrix.
Yes, I've been doing this for the last 6 years professionally. It just, it was one of those things I fell into. I certainly didn't grow up going, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a professional dominatrix. I couldn't even say that or spell it. So much less, figure out that that's what I wanted to be.
I waited tables for forever and I still can't spell restaurant.
Oh, so there you go. Yeah. So it happens to the best of us. But yeah, can you imagine telling your family, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a dominatrix. And then having to explain what that is. I want to hurt people. Yeah. And they'd be like, no.
So how do you fall into being a dominatrix?
I can only speak for myself, because this is not like something you open up and on career day, or, there's not a classified ad for this. So it's not like anybody really knows, I think, that this is what they're going to do professionally. You just sort of stumble upon it. But I don't know, people must stumble upon it in all different ways. I just know for me, when I was in graduate school and college, which is going back quite a ways, I was a dancer. That's how I paid for it. I danced around a pole in Atlanta for a while. And
you make some serious cash doing that in Atlanta?
In the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because the 90s, people still had expense accounts, and, businesses weren't politically correct. Early 90s, you didn't have to worry about offending somebody by taking them to a strip club. You just took them to a strip club.
Right.
It's a whole different thing then. It really, and it wasn't that long ago when you think about it. But it really was. Even the way we treat women. Remember, there was no Me Too movement.
Yeah.
When I was dancing. I mean, looking back, even though I never felt threatened. I never had any problems as a dancer. I never had any unfortunate incidents, nothing. But looking back, yeah, I was pretty much sexually assaulted every single day. I mean,
Yeah.
how could you not be? I'm dancing naked on a stage. It's so what happened was, like every other good Jewish girl from New Jersey, you're going to find a really good hairstylist wherever you go. That's your life goal, right? Like, and I had a awesome hairdresser who happened to be a gay man who liked a lot of leather. And I never, leather in Atlanta, it's hot, and he's wearing leather, you
Right.
know? And we became good friends, and he knew I was dancing, and I was about 21 years old. And he was like, you're going to get into trouble. Like, you're just too, I'm like, and I still am to this day, whenever I'm with a group of people, I'm the happy Labrador, I'm just the one that's going to greet everybody. I always think there's no danger. Right.
Right.
So, he was like, bad things are going to happen to you. And he just sort of took me under his wing. I was able to move into his house, and it was a big, beautiful house in Buckhead, and he had a pool, and I would go to school during the day. And then I would have, work at night where I was dancing. I only danced like 3 days a week, and I would come home. I would just give him all the money, and he would give me an allowance out of it, and he would provide for me, like whatever I wanted. So, my food, my room and board, all that was taken care of. And then he had these rules, like that was how you had to do it. And I wasn't the only one who lived there. In order to live there, you had to follow his rules. And, at the age that I was, and I responded very well to it because I liked that kind of structure, but I also saw it like a game, like it was fun, and I was a very experimental kid. Obviously, I'm dancing naked in a bar, and so I don't have an issue with sex or any of those kinds of things. So the kinds of games and stuff that were being played were like fun. They were good. I had a good time. I went to great parties. I, met awesome people, things like that. So for me, it was actually a lot of fun. And I didn't mind it, and it was very old school BDSM too. Like when you hear people talk about old guard, you've heard that?
I heard it once.
Okay. So old guard just means that they follow a very strict, almost military style of training. That's the closest way I can explain it. So, I had to have an inspection every day. I had to be dressed a certain way, especially when we went to places. My hair always looked amazing because he would do it. So thank God for that. Living in Atlanta, the hair would be nuts. But, to me, it was just fun. And the other people that lived in the house, like he had his boyfriend who lived in the house with us, and he was a younger guy around my age at the time. So it was fun. It was like, like a weird kind of Three's Company.
Okay. So every day, like he would like check to make sure your room was clean, or you were.
Absolutely. Like I had to maintain a certain pride and cleanliness about myself, because he didn't want me to be like one of these, like, run with even though I'm working with the wrong crowd, I didn't need to run and socialize with them either.
Okay.
I mean, from what I understand, the stripping industry really has not changed much since I did it 30 years ago.
Right.
Whereas it's still rampant with drugs. It's still prostitution. It's still a lot of rape. It's still a lot of, it's a lot of everything. And the women are essentially, in danger if they're not near nice people. And you don't meet nice people when you're taking your clothes off for money. You just don't,
Right.
And he just took a liking to me, and he just didn't want me to get hurt.
So you kind of lucked out.
I did. That's exactly what happened. I lucked out. I had this amazing experience, and I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about myself because, like I said, I'd always liked girls, but I never really had a place to experiment with it. I never and felt safe and accepted for experimenting with it. In a biker community, and that's why Kink. When Kink was first coming up in this country, it was so prevalent in biker communities because biker communities are generally very accepting of everyone's lifestyles. That's part of their being, like because they found each other because they weren't accepted for who they were.
Okay.
So they tend to, be a little bit more relaxed about other people. And in a leather community, they don't care who you sleep with. They just care if you like leather. Like it's all about the leather. So, But back then, with no internet, with no, I had no framework for this. It was just, wow, this is fun, this is exciting, and it was very safe for me. And when I was done, and I decided I didn't want to be in graduate school anymore for a variety of reasons, and I wanted to come back home to New Jersey for a while. And I said to him, listen, I'm done. Like, I want to go home. Thank you. La, la, la. He gave me every single dollar I ever gave him with interest. He'd been holding it for me. He wasn't taking it for himself. He was putting it away so that it would be there when I needed it.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It was incredible, really. And I didn't even expect it. Like, it didn't even occur to me.
You thought you were just giving him that to live there.
Yeah. And I was so happy living there. And when I tell you, like, I wasn't even counting my money other than to know how much I made that night. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would just give it to him and, like, be done with it.
Wow.
So, when he did that for me, it always left that, it always remained with me. Cut to a million years later, I wasn't always a pro dom. I mean, I went to college. I actually got a job in New York City. I worked in the fashion industry for almost 20 years. And after I had a child and, after they blew up buildings in New York and all kinds of stuff, and I was just like, had it, like, between the brownouts and the building, I had it. I didn't want to work in New York anymore. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? I just had a baby. What am I going to do? I have to do something during the day or at night. And I wanted to be around adults. So, I started selling sex toys. Made perfect sense to me. Right. That's something I liked anyway. I knew a lot about, and I had previously even taken one of those courses on how to give a better blowjob just for the fun of it. Cause, like, why not? Like, I wanted to take it. I saw the woman on Real Sex and I was like, I want to take it from her. And I did. I actually got to take it from her. And then when I realized nobody in New York was teaching it, I flew to California where she is and had her train me. And so for the last 18 years, I've been teaching a blowjob class in the tri-state area.
Wow.
So I've been to a lot of bachelorette parties, a lot of hen parties, a lot of divorce parties, things like that. So that all kind of was my gateway into where I am now.
So you give a good blowjob.
Yeah, it's. I got married because of it, so it can't be bad. And I always tell how I got started, and it really was. I took the class. 3 months later, I was engaged, and working in New York with other women, and I got engaged before they did. So they were a little annoyed, and I was their boss, and it created a lot of tension. So one night during market week, I remember distinctly, I took the three of them into a conference room with some bananas, because that's what we had at our fruit table, and a bottle of vodka, because I knew some of them needed to loosen up a little. And I taught them everything that I had learned. And this is the honest to God's truth. Within 3 months, all three girls were engaged, and one of their boyfriends sent me flowers. So I was like, I think I got something here. And that's why I started to teach it in New York, because I was like, all right, obviously there's a need. And, so between that and the sex toys that I was selling, so now I'm doing, like, the fuckerware parties, like that's what they would call them, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I'm doing that, and I get called, somebody got my card from somebody who got my card from somebody who had my card, and they had given it to this woman who runs a dungeon in Pennsylvania, and somebody had called out for a party, and she needed somebody who could sell sex toys, and she just had my card. And she called me, and it was like 3 days before her event, and I remember it was the middle of summer, and I don't like leaving my pool. I really don't. And I remember thinking, oh, do I want to drive all the way out to Pennsylvania to do this? This will be crazy. Like, and then I'm like, oh my God, but a dungeon, like, I got to see this. I got to see it. So I remember, like, saying, even to my husband, like, I'm doing this because I got to see what this is about, right? And I ended up I just hit it off with her. We became really good friends at the time. And then when I realized what she was doing, and she had just opened her place and everything, I said, you know what? I want to work here. Like, what can I do? And she said, you'd be a really good dom. And I said, you're out of your freaking mind. And she said, no, there's something about you and you'd be good at it. And so she trained me for the next year. And after that, I just, I worked there for a while. And then when the traveling got too much for me, which it did, I mean, it was just a long commute, and I couldn't take clients on the whim, because it was too far away.
Right.
So, so you actually miss out on a lot of business that way. That I was lucky enough to find somebody who would rent me space for a while here in New Jersey. And, I just opened up and put it on the internet like, hi, here I am. I have a place in New Jersey. This is what I do. I was on FetLife and all that. And boom, I started a clientele and a following. And, now I'm in my second year. It's been a very interesting ride. I will say that.
For sure.
To be doing this for 5 years, I mean, it changes you. It just does. Like I had a lot of confidence before. Now I have more. A lot of things don't bother me the way they used to because I'm like, whatever. At least I'm not getting beaten. At least nobody hit me for that. So, but it's fun. You get great stories. It's just, I really do enjoy it. And one of the things that really motivated me to do this in the first place, to really just go out on my own, even when I'm not not working in a public dungeon, is because of my story. When you go on FetLife and when you hear how a lot of people get into BDSM, whether it's for professional reasons or pleasure reasons, a lot of them have very sad, tragic, traumatic stories that brought them to where they are. That's how they realized, that that's what they like. Or maybe that is what they like and they were, ostracized and made fun of. And, we've heard a million different ways that it was just bad. And I thought, God, if I could give people the kind of space that I had, where it was totally safe to explore, totally accepting to explore, to make mistakes, to be outrageous, and not be made fun of for it, and not be made to feel like you're wrong for it.
You mean like with the hairdresser that you lived with?
Exactly. Like, how great was it that my experiences with BDSM in the beginning were all good, fun. I think of it like a game. But there are people that do not think of it that way because maybe their first experience with it was horrible. Somebody hurt them,
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to give that safe space to other people so that if you have one of the biggest fantasies that a lot of men have is they like to dress up as women. They just like to dress up as, it's just the whole art form of it. It's the whole putting on the makeup. You should see how they do it. Like when I get to witness it, it's very careful. It's very deliberate. It's very elegant and beautiful. I don't put on pantyhose that way. I've never seen a woman put on pantyhose that way. But when men do it, it's very different. And, if they don't have a safe place in which to explore that, then they're missing out on, and, like enjoying their own fetish.
Yeah.
Their own fetish becomes something they become ashamed of instead of something that they can enjoy and feel good about. That's what you're supposed to do with your fetish.
Right. So so you're saying that sometimes people will come see you and they enjoy getting dressed as a female?
Yep.
Do they bring all their own stuff when they dress up?
Absolutely. They have all their own stuff from the wig down to the heels, and it's fabulous. And as somebody who was in the fashion industry for 20 years, they love coming to me for that because I can actually give them advice. Like I can sit there and be like, listen, I get that the whole thing that you have 7 sequin pieces. You cannot wear them all at once. That's not how we do it. That's not going to work. You got to highlight a piece, and you can explain. It's fun for me in that respect because I get to use something that I've known for 20, I get to use my past job in this one.
Yeah, so I think, my confusion, I think sometimes is like sissification is stuff that I hear of more and more now. But like when you think of a guy dressing up as a girl, you usually think of like drag or like very kind of like out, like feminine gay males.
Mm-hmm.
But are you talking about like straight men?
Yes, these are mostly straight men. Mostly straight men who they see it as humiliating. It's part of a humiliation thing. And for whatever reason, because I don't experience this, I just help others to, humiliation can be very sexually arousing. There's a whole community of people that find being humiliated for their fetishes and their kinks, it's actually sexually arousing to be made to feel dirty, bad, and wrong about their dirty, bad, and wrong thoughts. they find that very arousing. And
Okay.
given a safe space to explore that, they get to find new avenues. You know, they get to really explore it. Some of them get to the bottom of it. Some of them aren't interested. They just enjoy it, you know. But it's really an incredible journey, I find, to go on with them. When I first started doing that kind of stuff, I was very, like, why do you want to wear women's clothes? Like, these are difficult clothes to put on. We've, 7 hooks to our bras and our stockings. You always have to have 2 pairs with you. You're going to rip the first one you put on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I never understood it. Like, it takes us an hour and a half to get ready. Why do you want to do this to yourself?
Yeah.
But the more and more I would talk with them, the more I would understand it. I found that there were 2 schools of thought on it.
Okay.
And one of them, the one that I personally enjoy being in the company of, like I get it more, I can play more with it, is when they're so enthralled, they're so like mystified with what a woman goes through to get dressed, that they like experiencing it themselves and to see the result they get. Like, they actually understand and feel this, like, wow, like, this is what it takes to be her. And these are men that generally like dominant women because they're in awe of them. You know, they see women as this ultimate, like, femininity and beauty and something to behold. So that's one group,
Okay.
and they're the most fun for me to play with when it comes to sissification, because they want to get beautiful.
But they're still embarrassed to just like want to do it at home because they find it like
Oh
embarrassing.
yes, if their wife would find out, if their children, a lot of these men, I mean, too, they come to, like, they have, like, and I look at them and I'm like, were you a football player in high school? Like, these are not frail, feminine men that I'm speaking about.
Right.
Sometimes they tend to be younger, but like, for the most part, they're manly men.
Okay.
Okay. But there's something that they find by aspiring to be women, because they really enjoy women. Like, these are the men that always open up a door for a woman, would put their coat over the mud for a woman. Like, you know what I'm saying? These are not dicks.
Right.
Not when they're dressed as men, they are gentlemen. So does that give you like a little bit more of like why they're so enthralled with women, right? Okay, so that's like the first group I find.
And they
right?
treat them like treasures.
Treasures, exactly. Treasures. That's why when they put on their stockings, they're not rushing to get ready. They're like feeling the stocking go on their leg. They want to know what the experience is like. They like the feel of the fabrics. They're frilly, they're lacy, they're pretty. It's different than being, a boy.
Stinking suit all the time.
Yeah. And it's boys have no imagination with their clothing. It's not their fault. It's just there is none available, right? And then you have another group, I find that, they like the sissification because it's humiliating for them to be treated, and some see this as a negative. There's so many schools of thoughts on it that would probably be a whole other podcast, because they see being dressed as a woman and then being made to do manly things or even feminine things. It's like a punishment. It's humiliating. It's like, but it still arouses them. Like, it's, you'll see them in these little pink tutus with their, thongs and, and high heels and bobby socks, and they're on their hands and knees and they're cleaning for me, or they're, and they're doing something. And I'm sitting there going, you missed a spot. And, oh, look at how much your ass shakes when you're cleaning for me. And they're getting harder and harder and harder. You know what I mean? Like, and that whole dichotomy of getting aroused for being humiliated then spirals for them. And it becomes, oh my God, this is humiliating me. And how dare I get aroused? And I can't believe I'm getting aroused while I'm being humiliated. And it just ping pongs back and forth in their head, and it just brings them to like a different sexual height than they can just get normally, So it's a very different vibe depending on who walks in the room. And of course those aren't my only clients. Clients take all different kinds of fetish forms, but those are the ones that I have been seeing the most of lately. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they are trapped in a home with people they cannot express themselves with. So that desire, that need to express themselves is overwhelming them.
Do you think like people listening to this podcast and in general should tell their boyfriends or partners like, hey, if you ever want to like play dress up, just let me know. I'd love to like do hair and makeup with you. Like, would that be weird, do you think, to say?
I think that
what do we do? What if we're with a guy that would enjoy it and we don't know?
Right. It wouldn't be weird for me, but I mean, if I think that guy would immediately be going like, what have you been looking at? What have you found? What have you,
right.
There would be a certain level of panic. I think the right thing is really when, and I'm sure this happens more times than not, when a man admits to his woman, hey, occasionally when you're not home, I've been putting on your clothes. And many women might be like, oh my God, what the fuck? And like, go like, what? I think that the advice that I would give is really to the women to be like, breathe. And it may absolutely be shocking. But before you react, there's a few questions you should ask. The first one being, do you just like dressing up as one or do you want to be one? Because now we're in two different conversations, right? And if they just like dressing up as one, this is fun. That you can work with so much easier in this respect. And I'm, only because I can't, this isn't the moment to get into heavier conversation,
Right.
This is for the one side of like, yeah, no, I just like to dress it up. It's like a kink of mine for that guy. When he expresses himself to his wife that like, yeah, no, I just want to like wear panties and have you beat me or walk around the house and clean or model for you. Listen to him, talk to him, find out what it is that's driving the like that, because it's probably not what she's thinking. She's probably immediately going to, oh my God, what did I do that you want to dress like women? No, it has nothing to do with her. But talk to him, because what she will find out will probably fascinate her. And I know so many women that when they've done that with their husbands, because, they'll come to me as a couple even. Oh my God, is it fun? They shop together. They socialize differently when he's in that persona. It's really, it can really enhance a relationship. It doesn't have to ruin one. It's my point. It can really, but then again, I'm not a therapist and I'm not, that's not my job.
Right.
My job is to give you the space and the freedom to do it. And that's what I like. But I do have a lot of couples that come to me because they're, one side wants to be humiliated a certain way, and they it's hard to see sometimes your big burly man who takes out the garbage and he builds things and he fixes things and all that kind and he's the breadwinner in the house and he's the one with all the pressure and all the just all the responsibility, right? Sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. But it's usually those men that have tremendous amounts of responsibility and are in charge of things that are completely the opposite in the bedroom, because it's the one place they can let go. And there's two reasons why that's the one place. One, they're usually with someone they trust, so it's easy, who knows them well. Or there's a beginning, a middle, and an end when it comes to sex. There always is. So for a man who likes to be in charge of things all the time, he can wrap his head around that. He knows I'm just dressing up this way from 8 to 10, then the session's over, and I go back to being me. So it gives him, and that's how he relaxes. That's it. Some go get a massage. Some turn to alcohol, some turn to drugs, some go play with their kids, some run, some do athletics. Like everybody has a different way to relax. And for some very powerful men, this is their form of relaxation. And I think as somebody who's a partner to someone else in that relationship, the minute you get that, well, now it's fun. Now this is something maybe we can participate in together. And that can change it, and that can bring your relationship to a whole new level, which is what I see very often when couples come to see me.
Yeah, because if a female is dating or with somebody who is that kind of powerful man, a lot of times they want that man because he's like powerful like that, and they probably want that in bed too, and so it probably puts a lot of pressure on them too to be like, hey, I actually want
Yeah, and a
the
lot of
opposite
times,
of that, because then they're like, wait a second, that's not why I'm with you.
right.
They
And
wanted
a
you
lot
to
of
be-
times women don't understand how to have that control without him giving up his place in the household. It takes practice. It takes a little bit of work, but it's once you figure it out, it's easy. And I use this as an example because a lot of people can wrap their head around this. When you think of a woman getting a blowjob, right? The image that comes to most people's minds is a woman on her knees in front of a man, right? That's usually the first image that's going to pop into your head when you think blowjob.
Right.
Okay. It's a very submissive position, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a naturally submissive position to be on your knees in front of somebody. And I think that what happens is, people don't understand, well, how can you be in control if you're doing that on your knees? Like, how is that dominant for a dominant woman to do? And I always say, well, I'm going to give you 32 reasons that it's dominant. And they always look at me like, what? And I go, you have 32 teeth. You are in the most dominant position in the world. That man's penis is in your mouth between teeth. How are you not in control?
Right.
And if you think he doesn't know it, bite a little. He will be reminded fast.
Yeah.
And everybody, the minute someone hears that, who has been all this time like, I'm the dominant, I'm not going to do that. The minute I tell them that, they're like, it's like a light bulb. You actually watch the light bulb turn on top of their head. Because now suddenly, I can do this. Because a lot of women actually do enjoy doing that because it brings pleasure to the person that you are with. But if you're a dominant woman, sometimes you feel like you can't do that because it's not a dominant thing to do, but it is.
Yeah.
Very, very dominant and powerful thing for women to do. And once you start thinking of it like that, it changes.
Yeah. And you can take away the pleasure. You don't have to, you can torture them with it too if you wanted to. You're in control.
First of all, you could do so many things. I always tell people, listen, if you have a guy who loves to put his hands on the back of your head and you hate it, go get a chair with arms and tie his arms down flat to that chair. Now he can't do that. If he's constantly talking dirty and it's throwing your game off and it's distracting you, maybe you're a woman who does not enjoy hearing that, gag him.
You've got so many quick fixes.
So many, right? And I always say, if he doesn't like to be gagged, he's going to learn pretty quick to not talk. He doesn't like to be tied down. You just keep doing it over and over again. So, and those are great ways that, and here's the other thing when you're dealing with couples. This is my favorite. So let's say a couple's been married for 25 years, right?
Okay.
Okay. And for 25 years, and we're going to keep it because it happens most often this way, but I don't want to disclude the fact that it can happen for women before it happens for men. It's just in the majority of relationships that I come across. This man has been obsessed with a certain type of fetish, right? Maybe he likes to be tied up and peed on. And he's been thinking and dreaming about it for 20 years and he's never done it. And finally, he gets up the nerve to tell his wife that this is what he likes. And he's surprised she's not as excited about it as he is. And they always come to me like, I don't understand what the big deal is. She's peeing on me. I'm the one tied up. What's the problem? And I always say, here's the problem. You've had 25 years to get used to the idea. She's had 25 minutes. Give her a break.
Yeah.
Break her in slow. You've got to help her into your fetish. It's not going to happen overnight. It's an alarming thing. Like if you're a woman and you suddenly all this time hear that your husband has been wearing your shoes and now he's upset because you're surprised. Well, for 20 years, he's been sneaking in your closet wearing the shoes. He's gotten used to it. You haven't.
Yeah.
When it comes to that with couples in kink, you got to remember that there's a learning curve. There's always a learning curve on the part of somebody. So when a man finally says to his woman, I want you to dominate me, I want you to be in charge, and that woman is like, I don't know how to do that. You're the breadwinner. You're this. I don't know how to do that. There's those little simple things like tying him down when you give him a blowjob. Blindfolding him so he can't see. Men are visually stimulated. If you want his blowjob to last longer, blindfold him. If he can't see, it takes away some of the stimulation for him and he lasts longer because men are visually stimulated. Women are auditorily stimulated. That's why when we read erotic fiction or listen to erotic stuff, we get turned on. You know, so I always tell couples, like, start with those little quick fixes.
Right. So if
you don't have to dominate, or you don't have to all of a sudden come out of the gate like, Dina Dominatrix here with the hat and the leather and the chains, and you're not going to have any of that anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know what to say.
Right.
So if you don't know what to say or how to start, just sit them down. Just like hey, sweetie, come here, sit down. I want to show you something, and then just tie them up.
Exactly. I mean, when you're just starting out with BDSM, I think it's like any other hobby, kink, you want to buy all the equipment right now. You want to buy everything. You're like, you just discovered paddles. Now you want to buy every kind of paddle there is. Things like that. You don't have to do that. Go to your kitchen. A lot of things that you can use are right there in your kitchen. Spatulas and wooden spoons make great paddles. Clothespins make great clamps. I mean, there's so many things that, like, if you want to experiment in the beginning, or if you're a woman and your man says, hey, I want you to dominate me, and you're like, I don't know what to do. Start off with something small. Use a tool. Use an implement, because that's, that helps you, you don't have to be so creative, right? I mean, everybody knows, oh, it's a wooden spoon. I know what to do with this. Everybody can figure that one out. Just start off small. Start off very teeny tiny.
Yeah. So a lot of times, like, this has happened to many a times in my life. People are like, I want you to just take me and do whatever you want to me. And you're like, well,
my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do with you. And now I'm like annoyed because, like, I would want the same thing from you.
My favorite, and I do this all the time, once, especially when I'm at kink events, like, conventions, parties, things like that, and people hear, oh, you're a professional dominatrix. I have no limits. You could do anything you want with me here.
Right.
The hell? Like, I look at that and I go, what do you mean you have no limits? No, I need to know your limits. Oh, I have none. You could do anything you want to me. And I always say the same thing. That's fabulous. So I can duct tape your body, right? Your hands and your feet and your mouth, and throw you in a burlap bag with some rocks and toss it in the river. And they look at me and they go, no, you can't do that. I'm like, then you have limits. You need to tell me what they are.
Yeah.
Because I have weapons. So I need to know your limits. And they're all like, oh, yes. Oh, you have them. If you don't know what they are, I'll help you find them, but you have them.
Right.
And I'm always like, and never, ever say to a professional dominatrix, I have no limits. Because we are very creative people. That's partly how we get the job, is that we can come up with stuff, you can't say that you have no limits to one of us. Because that's like saying free beer.
So do you, like, really love, like, dominating, or do you love just this exploration?
I'm a mental sadist. That's what I kind of excel in. I love just the mind fuck, the fucking with people. Like, I always tease my submissive because I don't have to be upset with him. I could be in the best mood in the world with him. But if there's this one time where I just consistently try to look in his eyes, he gets completely self-conscious. He can't look at me. He turns away and he's like, what did I do? What did I do? And I'm like, nothing. I just like, and he knows I like to toy with him that way, but it doesn't stop it from happening. It keeps happening. Like, and it's fun. It's fun having that kind of power over somebody. And it can't, in the right setting, it's very arousing to have that kind of like, wow, I just look at them and they melt. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Like, how many times can you say that about somebody,
Right.
And even when I'm working with a client, like, there's certain phrases, certain things that, like, I'll say to them, like, oh, you wore your panties to work today, didn't you? Like, you work at a construction site. You had to walk a construction site and you had pink panties on today, didn't you? So just my knowledge that I guessed that that's what they did that day before coming to see me throws them into a tizzy. So I don't really, my style is not very physical in that respect. Like, yes, I do some impact play and things like that, but I like that mind fuck. And that's much more powerful sometimes for, the clients that come to see me. They know that that's what I'm into. So that's what they come to see. That's what they're coming for. And it's like fun because they know I don't judge them, but then I kind of like, tease them about it. And that's what they like, that tease and then the tease and then the denial, like getting so close to them, like, where I'm breathing on their neck, breathing in their ear, but they can't touch me. Even if they weren't tied up, they wouldn't be allowed to touch me. And so I love that. There's a power there. And that I've loved since I was in my 20s, because that's being a stripper too.
Right. You probably feel safer though now. Like as a stripper, like there are people there around be like, if they touched you, you're in trouble. But you have a lot more power now if they touch you.
Well,
try to touch you there.
And people ask me all the time, oh my God, do you feel safe? Most of the people coming to see me are submissive. They're submissive in nature. They're not there to hurt me. They don't want to hurt me. That's not what they're coming for. And they're certainly not going to pay what it costs to come see me to hurt me.
How much does it cost to come see you?
I average about $300 an hour. So, I mean, if you think about it, I can work 2 hours a week, and that's a nice paycheck. So that's kind of why I continue. It's kind of hard not to love this work.
Right.
You don't have to work that much.
So you're married.
I am married.
To a male?
To a male.
The same husband as also the father?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we've been married for 18 years.
Okay, and then you have a submissive that's not your partner.
That's not my
husband.
Not my husband, right?
Okay,
not my.
Sorry.
But my current submissive is really. I mean, he's my companion. He's my assistant. He's really like my right hand. Like he does everything with me. When I travel, he's with me. And we do have a relationship. So it's and my husband's aware. Like it's not a secret. It's not hidden. It's a different dynamic, of course, than being married and having a child. Like that would be what you would consider the primary relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't function without my sub. He's been my sub for 2 years. And honestly, I wouldn't know I had this appointment today. Like he's everything for me. Like he'll track my moods if I ask him to. He'll do whatever it takes. And he's a tremendous asset to me because he is extremely active in the LGBTQ community. He's a member of the community, so he teaches me an awful lot about it. And he's 15 years younger than me, so he brings to me a level of understanding that I need for my audiences when I do teach and tour and things like that. I would be lost without that because I'm an 80s kid and I grew up with 2 pronouns. There's
right.
more now. I understand that,
right.
And I must learn to use them. I have to learn to change my speech to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll write something and I think, wow, that sounds damn inclusive. And my sub will go, no, it doesn't. So,
and you'd be like, thank you, but don't use that tone.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes, but we say it's snarky. I'm like, don't be snarky. No snarkiness. But yeah, so he's an invaluable asset to me. And again, here I am. I'm almost 50 years old. I have had this incredible life where I've done many things, not just in the kink community, but just in life. I've been a very fortunate person. And to know that like I can still learn stuff. I still have stuff to learn. And I found somebody who can teach it to me. That's an invaluable thing. That is. So, and a lot of times as a professional dominatrix, that's exactly what I am for my client. I become their resource to explore their fetish, their kink, safely, without judgment. And, in a small amount of time that they can get their kink on and go home and live their life without anybody knowing, but it's the truth.
I do find it a little sad that they want to live their kink without anybody knowing. Like, do they ever talk to you about like how to share it with their partner? Like
sometimes they do, but you know what? For a lot of people, and this having a secret is just as exciting. And keeping it a secret sometimes is part of the fuel. Like if anybody ever found out I did this, oh my God, even their wife, even their girlfriend, even their mother, their sister, it doesn't matter. For some people really enjoy having a secret. And I'm one of those people who think it's okay to have a few secrets about yourself.
I cannot keep a secret to save my freaking life, especially about myself. It'll be like 5 minutes. I'll be like, okay, I didn't tell you
right.
5 minutes ago.
Right. I have friends like that. And I am probably a lot like that with a lot of things. But there are people that they thrive on having a secret. They thrive on it. I also, I haven't seen him because he can't see me during, while we're in isolation. He's one of my favorite clients. I met them years ago at a party, he and his wife. And when I met them, she was healthy. And in recent years, her MS has progressed to the point where she cannot discipline her husband anymore.
Oh.
She can't paddle him. She can't she can order him around. And in their relationship, the fact that she's the dominant female and now needs 24/7 care, oh my God, couldn't have happened to a better couple, really, because it's his joy to take care of his wife right now. He's living for it. But he needs the pain, the beating, like he needs certain things, right? So he would come to me and I'm sending her pictures and we're having her on speakerphone and she's telling me, no, he didn't make a big enough sound, hit him harder. She's involved in it from a different level. And in this respect, what I'm doing is providing a service. I'm a surrogate for her because she can't do it herself.
Wow.
But I can do it for her without judging, and then he leaves and it's like I never existed. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not a personal friend. I'm not in that respect.
Right.
So I help them. They do their thing and they get to still have their dynamic, their everything. And they're my favorite. He's my favorite client because of this reason. Because, I feel like it's my, I'm doing a mitzvah here. That's like a Jewish good deed. Like I feel like I'm really performing some real good philanthropic work here for this couple.
Yeah, they need someone to help them.
Right. And it's funny because when people say to me, and I'm talking about lay people, like, the regular world's people, my regular friends, my soccer moms, oh, that's what you do for a living? That's the story that I tell them. I go, well, listen, here's a guy who doesn't want to cheat on his wife and he has permission to come see me because she can't lift her arms anymore. And when everybody, then it's suddenly like, ew, you do that too. Oh, that's amazing. And I'm like, not so bad what I do anymore, is it?
Yeah.
And when you think of it, like what I do is so much broader than just spanking somebody's ass. And so when you start to see it that way, it suddenly becomes, wow, that's like, that's a cool job. That's a fun job. It's an exciting job. I don't know if we've reached the level of nobility yet as a noble job, but I'm working on it. I work on it very hard.
So say someone comes into like someone's new. Does everyone, when they come to you, do they know what they want?
They have an idea. They have an inkling. And I always say the same thing for this one too. Whatever kink brought you to me, it's not the kink you're leaving with. It's just, that's not it. It's a rabbit hole. And when you start to, hey, I think I'd like a little spanking with a hairbrush. Yeah, within a year, you're getting flogged with a single tail on fire. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's, you just think you like to be spanked and suddenly you're hanging from hooks from your skin. You're into a whole different fetish you didn't even know existed.
Right.
Right. Because that's what happens when you start to explore yourself. There's no one and done. There's no, I mean, you know this from your own profession. Like, there's no like, oh, I know 6 moves. Now I'm done. I've learned them all.
Yeah.
That's not like that. You're always learning. You're always evolving. And, so kink is the same way. So you may come into it with like, yeah, I just want to be spanked, or you come into it knowing like, I like to do the spanking. And 3 years in, you're the first one on the ground for a paddy wagon. You're the first one volunteering to be a submissive on stage. The same person who once said, I don't have a submissive bone in my body.
Right.
Usually they're the most submissive of all. Yeah, you just got to unlock that door. But yeah, that happens a lot. People who thought they were submissive, this happens mostly with women. When women are younger and in their 20s, they tend to be very submissive to men. It's fun. It's kink. Oh, take me. Yeah, it's that. It's
Right.
the helpless woman. It's the damsel in distress. Rescue me. I need my Superman, right? And then somewhere when a woman gets to her 30s and 40s, maybe when she starts to have children, you realize Superman is not showing up and you need to be Superman.
Right.
And suddenly you find your dominant side. So women tend to evolve more from that, I feel. And really, can find their dominant side that they tend to not know they have. I like working with couples like that too. And like suddenly, and I'll get an email later. I don't know what you told my wife, but she has no problem reaching her dominant side now. I'm like, you're welcome.
So what did you
know?
tell his wife?
It's very simple. I am a wife, so I can speak to wives very clearly. And I always say this, are you the one that keeps house? Like, you know the right way to load the dishwasher, right? She's like, absolutely. And folding a towel, you know how to do that. She's like, yes. Does he? No. Great. Use it. Use it. He wants you to spank him? Good. Spank him every time he gets the towel folding wrong. Spank him every time you have to reload the dishwasher because he loaded it wrong. You're going to accomplish two things. You're going to train him to load it right. And you're going to find your dominant side. Because once you realize he got the dishwasher handled, you're going to tackle another chore like putting the duvet cover on. Something else men just simply cannot get. Or not having piles of laundry on the floor. The clean, not so clean, and one more wear pile.
Yeah.
Little things like that. I tell the women who are in these marriages, I speak specifically to those because they live in the house. So it's very easy for me to say, look, what annoys you about him? You live with him. What's annoying you? Start with that. And it's not hard to get a woman to give her permission to yell at her man for getting something wrong that she's told him about 2,500 times. It's not hard to convince her to do that. Sometimes, though, they just need someone else to say, no, it's okay. You're allowed to yell at him about that. He likes it. He wants you. He's deliberately folding those towels wrong because he likes when you yell at him. Yeah, once they get that clue, they don't need me anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. Teaching men to dominate women is harder when they're not used to it, because ingrained in them their whole life, they've been taught up and down, and it's in their face constantly. Don't you dare hit a woman.
Right.
Don't you dare hit anybody, much less, it doesn't even have to be a woman. You don't raise a hand to people. And now this person is saying, no, hit me, I like it. And you're going, no, mommy said no.
Right.
Like, what do you do with that? It takes a little more time for me to break a man of those habits than to tell a woman, no, what does he do that he gets wrong? Good, yell at him for it. That takes 5 minutes. So yeah,
sometimes this is just really fun to hear, because it's more like, one step at a time, one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. Because it's always just like, it is like sounding like, for me, and I think probably people that enjoy my podcast, it's interesting because it's so curious and you don't really know how to get into it. So, but like, say like your partner, and I'm just speaking from a cis female point of view. It can, of course, go with any version, but they aren't loading the dishwasher right, and you just want to yell at them and like spank them. But do they always want that to become sexual, or sometimes
not
they
always
just want to be?
Not always, because for some, yes, it is sexual. I'm not going to say it's not, but that's where you get to use it to dominate them. Because all right, so not only are you yelling at them because they loaded the dishwasher wrong, you should be using that moment to teach them how to load it correctly, right? And when they get it wrong in the moment, you can discipline or spank them hard. And if it is sexually arousing for them, well, there's your moments to be like, oh, look at what's happening to you. I suppose you think I'm going to pay attention to that now. Forget it. You load the dishwasher wrong. Maybe if you loaded the dishwasher right, you'd get a reward. You see, they get to use that. It becomes very powerful. And then men, because if they're doing it for a sexual desire, well, sex is very motivating for men. Very motivating. So if you say to him, yes, well, every time you load the dishwasher, you get to do a little more of this or a little more of that, and every time you don't do it, you deny. And denying can be just as fun. You can make them play with themselves in front of you and not let them finish. You can play with them and not finish and just walk away in the middle. That's a power play.
Right.
To start somebody on the path to orgasm and then be like, no.
Oops, I forgot I need to go send an email.
Right. That is a very powerful position. And you don't even have to beat somebody. You don't have to hurt somebody. You don't even have to yell at somebody. You don't even have to speak. You can just start and stop.
But do you think people like that, not finishing?
They like somebody else being in control of when they can finish. They like it's dirty, it's powerful. It's like, ooh, she controls when I have an orgasm. I like that. Like they get into it. They like it. That's um they just, and I think for a lot of marriages, especially when they've been together for a while and been in a relationship for a while, look, they know each other's combination. Like they know what makes them tick. Like he already knows if I lay on top of her, pump 2 and 3 times, he knows what makes her orgasm. She knows what makes him orgasm. So you got to spice it up. You got to mix it up. So instead of just finishing all the time, mixing it up sometimes is not finishing, taking that power, that away.
I think that's the tricky part. People think like, oh, I didn't do a good job unless we finish, or this is why we're having sex. Like we're having sex so we come.
Yeah. No, you can take
he wants me now, so now we're going to do this so he can come or whatever.
Right. But if he also wants you to dominate, well, there's your moment to be, or, I mean, you could turn it into a game. Oh, you came before I did. Now you don't get sex for a week. I mean, you could, there are ways to dominate that don't have to look like a woman in leather with a whip in her hand. You can do it very subtly, very softly, very, where it's not noticeable to a naked eye. It's not like after a while, even he's going to be like, oh my God, she has complete control and I didn't even realize it.
Okay. So say my boyfriend, not like my boyfriend, say someone with the car door open for them. Mm-hmm. Their partner is not opening the car door for them.
Yeah. Take something that they like away.
That is so funny.
Yeah, just be like, hey,
I thought being a dominant would be so fun. I always thought I would want to have a daddy dom, one of the ones that cooks for you and makes sure all your food is ready for the week and whatever. But now I'm realizing it might be more fun to be the dom.
Yes. Oh yeah. There's so much. I think be a switch. I always tell couples too. I said, you know what? You should know what the other one is experiencing. Switch it up. Change places. Have opposite day.
Opposite day. I remember opposite day.
And and I also say and don't go on Facebook and be like, hey, me and my daddy Dom, me and me want to do this. Is this right? Yeah. No, don't ask other people if it's right. Does it work for the two of you? Do you both like that rule? Do you both like that result? Then great, it works for you guys. Done. There's no BDSM police. Nobody's going to knock on your door and saying, I'm sorry, but you spanked the left cheek before the right. That's not how you do it. No.
Right.
It has, as long as it works between the people that are involved, great.
Right.
I don't care how sadistic it is. I don't care are they happy? Are they both happy? Are they both fulfilled? Then that's the right course for them. Then that's the right way to do it. But It's incredible. I mean, I always, and I'll give you an example. My husband, we do not have this kind of a dynamic. We don't have a dominant sub. We're equal in our house, right? BDSM does not come into my house, right? But there were little things he didn't like that I would leave dishes in the sink. Okay. And he'd ask me time and time again, please stop leaving dishes in the sink. Okay. And I started to not leave dishes in the sink, right? I started to follow his, little thing that he asked me because it bothered him, whatever. And then I was like, this is really fucking frustrating that you can't fold a towel. You can't fold a towel. This is not hard. I've showed you this thousands of times. It's a rectangle. This is not hard. And I just one day told him, you know what? Every time I find a towel wrong, I'm leaving a dish in the sink. You don't want dishes in the sink? I don't want my towels folded wrong. Suddenly he got it. He understood that. Oh, it's not about that I don't think it's a great way to fold a towel. It's that's how she likes her towels folded. And I don't like dishes in the sink, so we gotta work together here.
Right.
Problem solved. My towels get folded correctly and dishes aren't in the sink. Everybody wins. And that's in a non-BDSM dynamic.
Yeah, so imagine my head is just getting blown.
Yeah, so imagine if you had that kind, if you have the rules and and you have a BDSM dynamic, then it's huge. The amount of stuff that you can do, you can make rules about pillows on your bed. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
And so I could be going on a date and I could be like, hey, I'm very excited for our date tonight. You are going to open every single door for me. You're going to order the food for me. You are going to treat me like a perfect female
and
the
here's
whole
how
time.
you would, yeah, and here's how you
And
would
then
say
when I
that.
get home, I'm going to tie you up and give you the best blowjob of your life. But then that whole entire night, he's going to be completely turned on.
Completely
and
turned
treating
on.
you like
Can't
the
wait
best.
to get home and going above and beyond.
You just changed my life.
Good, good. My job is done here. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's.
And you just get to be a direct person. Say what you want.
Right. And you don't have to be a bitch either. You don't. You could just be like, hey, listen, you want to have some fun later? You like a good blowjob? I'm really good at blowjobs. Do you know what I like? I love when men open up doors for me, order for me, and treat me like a woman.
Right.
Treat me like a lady. You put me on a pedestal, you will get rewarded.
Yeah.
I can't envision a man who isn't going to respond that. But if men are listening to your podcast now, they're writing that down to tell some woman in their life.
Yeah.
Like, trust me. And why not? Why not? If you're even, and even if you love, like, even if you're like, I would give him the best blowjob anyway, because I just like giving him a great blow. But why not, like, make it into a game and get a little something for yourself out of it? Nobody's getting hurt in that scenario.
Right.
It's not like you're asking him to rob a bank for a.
Yeah, I feel like it's so scary for some. I think maybe it's getting easier now that the conversation of sex is a little bit easier to have, like, in the world of community in the first place. But I think sometimes it might be, I don't know. I guess it's hard for sometimes a quiet female to step up and say that that's what they want as well. But I think sometimes it might be even harder for a man to.
It's very hard. It is much harder for a man because
what would you recommend to men that are listening? Like, how do you ask for these things?
I think you have to. I'm not a man. Like, it's hard, but you can't come at it like it's porn, right? And you can't come at it like, here's what I want you to do to me, and make it like they have to do all of that at once. You have to approach it like, listen, I have a fantasy, and here's what my fantasy looks like. But I want to know, now that I've told you my fantasy, are there certain parts of it you're interested in? Do some parts of it interest you more than other? So let's break it down. We don't have to do it all at once. Like, what of what I just told you does interest you, intrigues you? You see, get to the thing, like, because if you just say, I want you to tie me up, whip me, throw tar on me, and feather me, and blah, 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 and then take pictures and put them all over the internet and bribe me, any person is going to be like, oh my God, like, what is that? No, right? But if you approach it with, here's what my fantasy is, this is what the big picture looks like, right? But what parts of it do you like? It's kind of like when you go to pick out a menu, right? For a party. You see the whole menu, you see all the things, but you're going to take a little from column A and a little from column B, and then you combine it into something to give yourself a place to start. So if he says, I want you to dominate me, and you can start with just telling him what to do. You can start, maybe what intrigues her about dominating him when he says this is, oh, so I can tell you what to do and then I get stuff? Good, start with there.
It doesn't have to start with, okay, lie on your belly and let me spank
here's my
you.
fantasy, go.
Right.
It shouldn't be like that. It should be like, here's what I've been dreaming about, fantasizing about, and thinking about, but I know it's overwhelming. So now that you heard the whole thing, is there any part of it that you want to talk more, that you want me to elaborate more on, that you have questions on, or, you want to ask? Because then it's less overwhelming to the other person to have to deal with all of that all at once. Instead, they could just be like, well, the handcuffs, you're very handsy and I don't like it. So I wouldn't mind just the hand. Can we start with just the handcuffs? He'd be a fool to say no, if that's what he's been fantasizing about for 25 years. Right? Yeah. So start off little by little, then and you'd be surprised how quickly women, especially, I have found, take to dominating their man. It's unbelievable. They're like, oh, I had no idea it was going to be this easy. And I had no idea it was going to be this much fun. And I had no idea that I was going to end up with the man of my dreams afterwards. Because now these men are suddenly like pampering them and running after them, and they can't do enough for their wives. Why? because their wives are fulfilling their secret little dirty fantasies. He's going to do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. You know, it's no different than than your regular hetero, straight, no frills, no spice, just straight sex couple, right? And they've been having sex for like 10 years, and she's doing the dishes, and he suddenly pops his head in, and he's like, hey, you wanna? You know, and she's like, you know, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, but if you just give that little bit of something, even in there, just with like just something she can use to make it different for herself, she'd be more excited about jumping into bed after, you know,
Yeah.
then it'd be like, okay, yeah, now it's just, you know, and the funny thing is, like, with that couple that's like, just, you know, has sex, like, and it's straight sex and it's missionary and it's even she knows that morning he's nicer to her, he's more pleasant to be around, she's more pleasant to be around, she's less stressed, less everything. So, you know, imagine if you fulfill their fantasies, how people would behave afterwards and the next morning. If you made
Then
something,
we'd all be living in a fairy tale.
right. If you made something they've been dreaming
then
about
the
for years
fantasy
come
came
true,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Then they're like, oh my God, I think I have more fantasies.
And then the
Like,
Snow White song, someday my prince will come.
yeah, absolutely. Why
Your
not?
prince is already here. He just
Right.
needs to be told
Absolutely.
what to do.
Yeah. You couldn't be more right. You know, and that's the funny thing I try to explain to couples too. Like, dude, he wants you to do this. He already likes you. He's already into you. Half the battle's won. Like,
Right.
you know, he wants you to do it.
I haven't even like paid you $300 to be in a room with me, and my life has already changed.
See, now I feel like I can sleep tonight, and I will be a much better and more full person for it. Thank you.
Oh my
This
gosh.
is what I live
but
to
I
do.
feel like we didn't even like talk about any of the stuff that I thought we were going to talk about. I'm going to have to have you on for like another episode.
I would love to. I'm really enjoying talking to you. I would love to. I mean, but that's, you know, but that's what happens when you talk to me. No joke. Like there's no scripts with me. I just sort of like ramble.
Yeah.
You know? But, you know, that's, I think, a sign of somebody who really kind of likes what she does.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think we've told anybody what your Instagram is and stuff for people to find you.
And we can now. So
I'll put it in the show notes.
As long as I remember it too. So my website is mischiefmatters.com. My FetLife is Mistress Schari. Instagram is high protocol _ mistress. And my Twitter is at Mistress Schari.
Well, before we go, I need to know what a sexual bucket list idea that you haven't got to do yet in your life that you would like to do.
I have to give it a lot of thought, but there is one that has always been on my bucket list, but it's the one that I personally kind of think should stay on. Like, if I never get to act it, I'm not worried because I don't know that it would be as great as I imagine it. You know, like, I think my imagination is way better than the reality. And I think it would be so much fun to be like, you know, the center of a gangbang, but I think it's better in my head, you know, because first of all, it's like the Avengers.
It's kind of a common one, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
We're very
you know,
interested in this.
But in my head, it's the Avengers. It's not, you know, it's good-looking men. It's you know, it's not the men who always volunteer.
All I need is Thor. Just give me a Thor.
A Thor and Aquaman. That would be the perfect threesome in the world for me. Just so, you know, just in case it can be arranged. But yeah, like, so that's one of those things. Like, I just think in my head.
For me, it'd be Thor and Batman.
Oh, okay. It's a fair one. They both have capes, though. I think it'd be tangled. Like, I think you're just asking for some accidents. You know, I like the whole thunder and water mixture. I think. You know,
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's definitely one of them. You know, I'm an exhibitionist by nature, but as I've gotten older, the less I want people to see of me and the more I want them to see of my subs and things like that. Because I'm of the mind, like, you don't want to see this. Like, this is, you know, enough people have seen it now. Like, nobody else wants to see it. But it's, you know, so it's not so much like a bucket list. And look, when you've been involved in the BDSM community since you're 21, your bucket list has grown and been completed multitudes of times over, because I've always been in, you know, I've always been
Accepting
where I could
places.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, or at parties that are, built for it, or clubs, or you name it.
Oh, I
So-
thought about something from earlier I didn't say, where it was like, you were like, you tell somebody what your fantasy is, and then you're like, but is there any part of this that's interesting? And for in my head, some reason it was like, you say an exhibitionist, like, what if your partner's like, I really would love to have sex in public, and I know that might be a lot for you to digest, but maybe if you're ready, I could go down on you in front of the window.
Yeah, exactly. You start off small.
Right.
You rent the third floor in a hotel. Open the window.
Right.
Open the curtain. Next week, we're on the second floor. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a gradual thing, because not being an exhibitionist, not everybody can get into that. But sometimes it's not so much about actually being seen, but the possibility of being seen.
Right.
And peepholes, glory holes, they don't always have to be used for putting things through. You can use them just as visual. So there's those kinds of opportunities, you just got to get creative, but I think, if somebody's an exhibitionist and the other person is not, see how you can manipulate it to work. It's really not that overwhelming when you break everybody's fantasies down. You have to just be willing to do that. That's the key.
Yeah.
You got to tell the fantasy first, and then you got to be willing, to take your time.
You can trust somebody and that they're not going to be angry at you, and then you have to be open to letting them take their time to meet you there.
You have to be. You always, when it comes to sex, when it comes to BDSM, kink, fetish, I don't care how you break it down, you always go at the pace of the slowest in the race. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for a failure. Every time. Yeah. Because somebody's going to feel like they're not measuring up, or they're not good enough, or they're doing it wrong, or they don't like it. And so then they're turned off to the whole thing. Pay attention to the person you want on this journey with you. And if they need to go slower, then go slower. You'll get there.
Yeah.
But,
this has just been such an eye-opener. I guess I just always thought that, like, oh, you want something that's dominant, you got to go find someone that's dominant because it's not this person. It's like, well, no, they didn't know yet that they could just yell at you about the dishes.
Yeah, that to me is a very
really
very
interesting.
very it's the old, I don't want to say the older way of thinking, but it's the common thought process.
Because you don't know how to train somebody, because you don't know how to do it, because that's what you want, and you don't know how to do it. So you don't, like, I don't know how to try to be one way or the other. This conversation is really like piqued my interest.
Well, and you start with the simple things. Like, I knew from the get-go, before I was even a dominant, I don't like to carry heavy things. Like, I don't like to carry my luggage. Yeah. One of the reasons why I don't like to travel so much is because I don't like to carry my luggage. Like, I get nervous. Like, I'm a klutz, and I get nervous. And I'm like, oh, what if there's steps? What if it's heavy? What if it's... This is one of the first things when I took on a submissive. You're going to carry all my stuff for me. The first thing, I was like, oh, maybe I can get into having a submissive. Because I started with something that meant something to me. You see, like, I started with something that actually meant something to me and made a difference for me. That's what started me like, oh, maybe I could have a submissive all the time in my life. Maybe it's not as weird or unusual as I once thought, having someone work with me and do things for me.
But then, are you sexually attractive to your submissive?
Not to all of my submissives, but to this one, yes, I am.
Okay.
That's why I said this with this particular submissive, who's I'm hesitant to say names and stuff like that, because I forget who's listening, kind of thing. But on FetLife, it's Catnip Boy, and so we can call him Catnip, and I am attracted to him. So, like, he's evolved into something like. That's why I say he's a companion. He's an assistant. He's a submissive. He's like everything. But I do have submissives that I'm not necessarily attracted to. And when I say it's because it's an exchange. In other words, maybe they don't have money to pay me, but they have skill I can use. Okay. Like building me furniture, cleaning my house, something. Oh yeah, I'll do a session if you do this. So I'm not necessarily attracted to them, but I can hold up my end of the bargain because they're holding up their end of their, like.
Right, but it's not a sexual relationship.
Right. It's not, even though what I may be doing as a session for them may be sexual in nature. It's not because I'm sexually attracted to them. Sometimes I am, but not always.
Okay. Well, this has just been so much fun.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being on. It's been so wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
I will have all your stuff listed in the show notes underneath the podcast. And I want everyone to find you.
Please, yes. And if you're in New Jersey and you're stuck in your house and you need a session, give me a call.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Well, there you have it. Have them take out the trash, have them make out the bed, have them do the dishes, get them to do everything that you want, and enjoy doing it at the same time. Why didn't anyone tell me this before? Welcome to my new happy life. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Please follow Mistress Schari on Instagram at highmistress_protocol, mischiefmatters.com, and on Twitter as Mistress_Schari follow. All of the things are in the show notes. We can't wait to have you connect with her. If you think you have interesting sex and you want to tell me about it or be on the show, please send me an email at interestingsexpodcast@gmail.com. I'd like to take a second to remind people that we are very lucky to get to have sex with who and how we like, and not everyone is afforded that right. 10% of any profits that comes through Interesting Sex Podcast goes to help stop human and sex trafficking. There's not a worse life than I can imagine than to be a child who is sex trafficked. If you'd like to donate to the show to help keep the show going, as well as also donate to the cause, please go to InterestingSexPodcast.com, where you can donate, or through the PayPal with the Gmail account, InterestingSexPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for all of your support, and we cannot wait to see you next Tuesday to find out what the pussy dragged in. Thank you to the band 41 for this really awesome song. I love it. It's weird. I love it. 41music.net.
Well, it's a doobity-doo. Yes, it's a doobity-doo. Well, it's a doobity-doo. Yes, it's a doobity-doo. I mean a doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doo.